They thought it was just a peaceful weekend by the ocean, a rented house, the sound of waves, a break from the city. But from the moment two men knocked on their door asking where they were from, everything shifted. A white pickup lurking in the dark, doors left open that they swore they locked, the sound of tires crawling up the driveway at night. They didn't do anything wrong, yet they knew something was coming, something they couldn't name but couldn't escape either. What do you do when you realize you're the wrong kind of guest in the wrong place? It was supposed to be a quiet weekend away. My wife, Denise, and I had been planning this for months, a short escape from the constant buzz of city life. We'd rented a small two-bedroom house near the coast in North Carolina. The photos on Airbnb made it look perfect, pale blue siding, a porch with 2 rocking chairs, and just a 5-minute walk to the water. It felt like a chance to breathe. The drive down was uneventful. Sunlight shimmered on the asphalt, and the hum of the tires blended with the faint sound of jazz on the radio. When we pulled into the driveway around 3 p.m., the neighborhood was still, except for the sound of waves crashing faintly in the distance. The air smelled of salt and warm pine. For a moment, everything seemed right. The host hadn't met us in person. Just a message, key under the mat. Enjoy your stay. We let ourselves in. Inside, it was clean but plain, white walls, wicker chairs, and seashell decor that looked straight out of a tourist shop. Denise unpacked groceries in the kitchen while I opened the windows. A soft breeze carried in the smell of the ocean. We walked to the shore around sunset, hand in hand. The beach was nearly empty. A couple of kids chased each other along the sand while an older man fished off the pier. We stayed until the sky bruised purple, then headed back, laughing about nothing in particular. That's when I noticed the first thing. Across the street from the rental was a white pickup truck that hadn't been there earlier. The engine was off, but I could see a silhouette inside. The porch light flicked on automatically as we climbed the steps. I pretended not to notice, but something cold pressed at the base of my spine. Inside, Denise took a shower while I sat by the window. The truck was still there. No movement, no lights. I tried to shake it off, maybe just someone waiting for a friend. Still, I drew the curtain and turned on the TV, even though I wasn't watching. Later, as we sat down for dinner, there was a knock at the door. 3 quick raps. Denise looked at me, eyes wide. We weren't expecting anyone. I stood, heart thudding in my ears, and opened it slowly. 2 men stood on the porch. Both white, one older with a thick gray beard, the other younger, maybe mid-30s, wearing a faded baseball cap. Neither smiled. "Evenin'," the older one said. His voice was flat, almost polite, but his eyes never blinked. "You folks just get in?" "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "We're here for the weekend." He nodded slowly. "You rentin' this place?" "Yes, sir," I said. "Through Airbnb." The younger one glanced past me, into the house, like he was taking inventory. Then he asked, "Where you from?" "Charlotte," I said, my throat dry. They looked at each other, then back at me. "Well," the older one said, "just making sure everything's all right." He turned to leave, but the younger one lingered a second longer, eyes locking on mine before he followed. When the door closed, Denise whispered, "What was that about?" I didn't answer. My stomach felt like stone. I checked the window again. The truck was gone now. The street was empty, but the silence felt heavier than before. That night, sleep came in fragments. Every creak of the old house, every gust of wind against the siding felt amplified. Denise shifted beside me, her breath steady, but I lay staring at the ceiling, counting the seconds between sounds. Around 2 a.m., I gave up and went to the kitchen for water. The street outside was black except for a single porch light flickering 2 houses down. Then, as my eyes adjusted, I saw it, the white pickup again. Parked in the same spot across the street. angled slightly toward the house this time. No headlights, no movement. My fingers tightened around the glass until it squeaked. I closed the curtain, heart racing. Maybe they were locals just keeping watch. Maybe. But why here? Why us? I didn't wake Denise. I didn't want her scared. Instead, I sat in the dark living room, phone in hand, pretending to scroll while keeping an ear on the silence outside. Around 3:30, the truck finally drove off, its engine a low growl fading into the distance. I exhaled, but it wasn't relief. It was a warning. Morning light didn't make it better. Denise was all smiles, talking about making pancakes, planning a day on the beach. I forced a grin and went to the porch. That's when I saw it, deep tire tracks in the soft dirt near the side of the house. Close, too close, like someone had backed up almost to the wall. My stomach knotted. I wanted to leave, but how do you explain that without sounding paranoid? I just don't feel right, wasn't enough when she'd been looking forward to this for weeks. So I stayed quiet. That was my mistake. We went to the beach around noon. Bright sun, blue water, families everywhere. For a few hours, I almost believed it was fine. When we got back, the front door was wide open. Denise froze on the porch. Did you? No, I said quickly. My voice cracked. Inside, the air felt wrong, like someone else's breath was still hanging there. Nothing looked stolen. Nothing broken. But the curtains were drawn tight, and the chairs at the kitchen table were pulled out, just slightly. Denise whispered, "Should we call the cops?" I almost laughed. What would I say? That two men didn't like us being here? That someone moved a chair? I pictured the officer's face. I pictured the questions. I pictured headlines that never came. Instead, I locked every door, every window, and we sat together on the couch until dark. Neither of us talked about the fact that the Wi-Fi had stopped working. Or that the host wasn't responding to my messages anymore. By nightfall, I'd made up my mind. We were leaving. I started packing, fast, tossing clothes into bags while Denise watched silently. That's when the sound came, tires on gravel, slow and deliberate. Headlights swept across the walls. I killed the lights and pulled Denise into the hallway. Through the gap in the curtain, I saw them. Not just the white pickup this time. A second truck behind it. Both idling in the driveway, engines low and patient. I could see shapes inside, dark and still. Denise gripped my arm so tight her nails dug in. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the engines revved once, sharp, like a warning, and both trucks rolled back into the night. We left before dawn, driving with the headlights off for the first mile. Neither of us spoke. I don't think we ever will about what might have happened if we'd stayed. And the worst part? No one will ever believe that this is how a quiet weekend getaway can end for people like us. Sometimes a business trip feels like the safest thing in the world. Book a clean rental, finish your work, go home. That's what she thought when she arrived in a quiet Alabama town, alone, just trying to keep her head down. But then came the truck parked in the dark, the knocks that never should have come, and the note left on the porch with her name on it. No one ever broke in. No one ever said a word. And that silence was the loudest thing of all. I booked the house because it looked professional, neutral tones, clean decor, and just 20 minutes from the corporate office where I'd be presenting. It was in a quiet Alabama town, a place I'd never been, but the reviews were glowing. Safe neighborhood, one said. Perfect for working trips. That was all I needed to hear. When I pulled up around dusk, the air was thick with the smell of cut grass and something sweet, like honeysuckle. The house was small but tidy, white shutters, brick steps, a porch swing that creaked softly in the breeze. The host, a woman named Linda, had left a note on the counter with a welcome basket, granola bars, bottled water, and a handwritten, "Make yourself at home." It almost made me smile. Inside was quiet, almost too quiet. No traffic noise, no kids playing outside, just the hum of the refrigerator. I unpacked my laptop and files on the kitchen table, trying to shake the unease of being so far from home. Traveling alone as a black woman had never felt simple, but I told myself I was overthinking it. I grabbed dinner from a small diner nearby. When I came back, I noticed something I hadn't before. The porch swing was still moving, like it hadn't finished rocking from someone sitting there. The air was dead calm. I stood frozen for a beat, then laughed at myself and went inside. Later, as I reviewed slides, my phone buzzed with a message from the host, "Everything okay over there?" I texted back a quick yes, and that was it. No big deal. Around 10 p.m., I closed my laptop and stepped out onto the porch to breathe. That's when I saw the pickup truck. Parked on the opposite side of the street, engine off, but someone was inside. A shape. Watching. I went back in and locked the door. By midnight, I was in bed scrolling emails when I heard it, a slow crunch of gravel outside. I killed the lamp and peeked through the blinds. The same truck. Now at the edge of the driveway. My heart hammered. I waited, counting the seconds. Then, as quietly as it came, it rolled backward into the dark. I didn't sleep. Not after that. I sat upright in bed, the glow of my phone the only light, listening to the house settle. At some point, I texted Linda again, "Is this neighborhood usually this quiet?" She didn't respond. At 3 a.m., I heard the knock. 3 soft raps against the door. Slow. Deliberate. I didn't move. The knock didn't come again, but the silence after was worse. I sat frozen in bed, ears straining for footsteps, voices, anything. Nothing. Just that thick, smothering quiet. My phone was in my hand, but who would I call? The local police? In a town where I was already a stranger, the wrong kind of stranger? I imagined the questions, the looks, the hesitation before help came, if it came at all. I waited until my heartbeat slowed, then slid out of bed and crept toward the living room. The blinds were drawn tight, but through the sliver between them, I saw it. The truck. This time, it was parked directly in front of the house, headlights off, engine rumbling low like a growl. My mouth went dry. There were 2 shapes inside. One of them shifted, and for a fraction of a second, the glow of a cigarette flared, lighting half a face. Pale. Expressionless. I backed away from the window, my pulse slamming in my ears. Every instinct told me not to turn on a light, not to make a sound. I crouched in the hallway and texted Linda again, "Someone is outside. Are you nearby?" No response. Seconds crawled into minutes. Then, finally, the sound of tires crunching gravel again. Slow. Deliberate. The rumble faded into the distance. I thought about leaving right then, but where would I go at 4 a.m. in a town that felt like it didn't want me here? I told myself I'd stay until sunrise. Then leave for good. I sat on the edge of the bed, fully dressed, bag packed, eyes fixed on the window until the first gray light bled across the walls. At 6:15, I opened the door to leave, and stopped cold. A single object lay on the porch. A key. Not mine. Rusted, heavy, with a red ribbon tied through the loop. Next to it was a note scrawled in thick black marker on the back of an old receipt, "Thought you might need this." My stomach twisted. I didn't touch it. I didn't look around. I just grabbed my bag and walked fast to the car, every nerve screaming that someone was watching. I locked the doors, started the engine, and drove. When I glanced in the rearview mirror a mile down the road, I saw the white pickup in the distance. Just sitting there. facing the way I'd come. I didn't stop driving until I hit the highway. I never left a review. Never said a word to Linda. But to this day, I still wonder how they knew my name. Because written in the corner of that note, small but clear, was the word, "Welcome, Erica." She thought she was booking peace and focus, just a quiet rental in the woods for a work retreat. Instead, the silence felt staged, the walls too thick, the landlady too interested. Then came the sounds, slow breaths behind the plaster, footsteps that didn't belong to her. And when she finally saw the eye watching her through a secret panel, it was already too late. How do you escape a house built for someone else's control? I rented the house because it was supposed to be perfect for focus, deep in the woods of northern Georgia, away from city noise, away from distractions. Just me, my laptop, and the trees. The photos showed tall windows, rustic beams, and a long wraparound porch. The listing said, "Privacy guaranteed." After the year I'd had, that sounded like salvation. The drive-in felt endless. My GPS stopped talking halfway up a dirt road lined with pines that leaned close, like they were whispering to each other. When I finally saw the house, my first thought was how quiet it was. No cars. No voices. Just the creak of the porch swing and the hum of cicadas pulsing like a heartbeat. The landlady was waiting. Her name was Margaret, late 60s, pale skin, hair pulled so tight it looked painful. She wore a floral apron, though I never saw a kitchen in her photos. When I got out of the car, she smiled without showing teeth. "You made it," she said, her voice slow, like honey poured too long. She insisted on walking me through the house. "Built it with my husband," she said, running her fingers along the walls like they were something alive. Every time I turned a corner, she was closer than I expected, her breath warm against my neck when she spoke. The place was big, too big. A living room with a stone fireplace, a narrow hallway leading to 2 bedrooms, and a study with a window facing nothing but trees. Perfect for work, I told myself, even as my gut tightened. Before she left, she touched my arm and said, "If you need anything, don't worry about calling. I'm always nearby." When the door shut, I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. I unpacked, set up my laptop on the desk by the window, and tried to shake it off. By nightfall, the forest outside was black glass, reflecting nothing. I made tea and opened my notebook. That's when I heard it, a soft rustle, not from the trees but inside the walls. At first, I thought it was mice. Then I heard it again. A slow drag, like fabric against wood. Then a sound that froze me completely, breathing. Deep, measured, almost in sync with mine. I walked through the house, telling myself I was imagining it. But the air felt wrong, heavier somehow, like someone had just left the room before I entered. I locked the bedroom door that night. Still, I barely slept. The next morning, I found something I hadn't noticed before. A thin seam in the wall behind the bookshelf, just wide enough to suggest a hidden door. The wood around it looked worn, like it had been touched often. And when I pressed my ear against it, I swear I heard something on the other side, soft and low, like a whisper meant for someone who wasn't me. By the second night, the forest outside didn't feel like the threat anymore. It was the house. The walls. Every sound carried differently, like the air had spaces in it. Gaps where someone else could be. I tried to work, but my hands shook on the keyboard. At one point, I muted my playlist and just listened. There it was again, that slow drag, like bare feet brushing wood, and the breathing. Closer this time, steady and calm, as if whoever it was didn't need to hurry. They already knew everything about this house. I checked every room, opening closets, tapping on panels. Nothing. Except when I came back to the study, the chair at the desk had moved. Not by much. Just turned a little, facing the window. But I hadn't left it like that. When I texted Margaret, I think there's an animal in the walls," she replied almost instantly. "Oh, I'll take care of it. Don't worry. Just relax." Something about that word, relax, made me feel anything but. That night, I slept with the lamp on. Around 2 a.m., I woke to the sound of a latch clicking. Soft, slow, deliberate. My throat closed. I stared at the bedroom door, but it was still locked. Then came the creak, behind me. From the wall. I sat up, heart hammering, and saw it, a thin vertical line of light where the seam in the wall had been. The panel was open, just a crack. Enough to show a slice of the dark beyond it. I didn't move. Couldn't. My breath caught when an eye appeared in that gap. Pale, unblinking, framed by gray strands of hair. Watching me. I don't remember grabbing my keys. I don't remember throwing my bag over my shoulder. I just know I ran, barefoot, out the front door into the black woods. I didn't look back, not even when I heard the panel slam shut and footsteps pounding on the wooden floor. I drove until the trees thinned, until the dirt gave way to pavement, until I saw the glow of a gas station. I sat there shaking, hands welded to the wheel, as the attendant stared like I was something broken. The next day, I checked the Airbnb listing. Gone. Completely erased like it had never existed. But I still see her sometimes. Not in person. In my mind. That pale eye staring from the darkness, patient, as if waiting for me to come back. He thought it was just a quick work trip, book a cheap Airbnb, finish the job, and head home. Instead, the night brought footsteps circling the house, a truck parked in the dark with its engine off, and voices laughing as the front door latch clicked open. No one came to help. No one cared after. And now, he knows what it feels like to be prey in a place that never wanted him there. I wasn't planning on staying in a stranger's house, but the project deadline left me no choice. The company didn't cover hotels for weekend work, so I booked the cheapest Airbnb I could find near the small-town plant. Photos showed a plain two-bedroom with wood-paneled walls, nothing fancy. The host's name was Dave. Reviews were short but positive, quiet, clean, great for short stays. I told myself that was enough. The drive took 4 hours from Atlanta. By the time I turned off the interstate, the daylight was already sliding behind gray clouds. The road narrowed into a stretch of cracked asphalt lined with skeletal trees, their branches clawing at the sky. I passed a gas station with broken pumps and a faded sign that read cold beer and ammo. A group of men in hunting gear stood by the entrance, their faces following me like I was the only moving thing in the world. By the time I pulled into the gravel driveway, night had swallowed everything. The house sat back from the road, a squat rectangle with peeling paint and a porch light that flickered like it was deciding whether to die. The air smelled like damp earth and smoke, maybe from a nearby fire pit. The key was under the mat, just like the message said. Inside, the house was still. Not cozy, not warm. Just still. The living room smelled faintly of mildew. A couch with sunken cushions faced an old box TV. On the wall above the fireplace, a mounted deer head stared at me with glassy eyes. I set my bag down and walked through the kitchen, yellow linoleum curling at the edges, a single plate in the dish rack, a knife lying on the counter like someone had just set it there. My room was at the end of a short hallway, door open, bed made. Everything seemed fine on the surface, but there was something about the silence. It wasn't the city kind of quiet, full of distant hums and murmurs. This was a dead quiet, like the house itself was holding its breath. I texted Dave just to confirm I was in. Got here safe. Thanks. A minute later, the bubbles appeared, then his reply, good. Keep the doors locked at night. Folks around here don't take to strangers. I stared at that message for a long time. Something about it sat wrong, like a warning dressed as a favor. Around 8 p.m., I heated some takeout in the microwave and sat at the table scrolling through emails. That's when I saw the truck. Parked at the edge of the property, beyond the weak glow of the porch light. Engine off. No lights. Just a dark shape, barely visible through the thin curtains. I tried to ignore it, telling myself it was nothing. Maybe a neighbor. Maybe someone hunting deer. But an hour later, it was still there. No movement. Just waiting. Before bed, I checked every lock twice. The metal felt cold under my fingers. In the hallway mirror, my own face looked like it belonged to someone else, drawn, tense, eyes wide in the dim light. I crawled under the covers fully dressed. Around midnight, I woke to a sound that didn't belong, gravel crunching outside, slow and steady, like footsteps circling the house. The sound kept coming, soft, deliberate, never rushing. Footsteps on gravel, then silence. Then a faint creak, like someone pressing weight against the porch boards. My body went rigid. The clock on the nightstand glowed 12:41 a.m. I slid out of bed as quietly as I could and pressed my ear to the door. Nothing. Just the hum of the old refrigerator down the hall. My heartbeat was a drum in my throat. I told myself I was imagining it, that old houses make noises, that people walk at night. But then something brushed against the siding, slow, scraping, like a hand dragging along the wood. I grabbed my phone. No service. Of course. The last bar had dropped an hour ago. My fingers hovered over the screen anyway, as if sheer desperation could make the signal come back. When the sound stopped, the silence felt heavier than before. I crept to the window and peeled back the curtain an inch. The truck was closer now, pulled up just shy of the porch steps. Its headlights were off, but the faint glow of the moon caught a pair of shapes inside, still, silent, watching. I let the curtain fall and backed away, heart pounding so loud it felt like they could hear it through the walls. I thought about calling the host, but what would I say? And worse, what if he was the one in that truck? That message he sent, "Keep the doors locked," echoed in my head like a warning I was too late to understand. I went to the kitchen, scanning for anything I could use as a weapon. My hand closed around the knife on the counter. The metal was cold and greasy, like it had already been used tonight. Then came the sound that froze every muscle in my body, the front door latch. Not a knock. Not pounding. Just a soft click, as if someone was testing it. I tightened my grip on the knife and waited. Another click, louder this time. The door rattled against the frame. I wanted to scream. Instead, I backed into the hallway, moving on bare feet toward the back of the house. The bedroom window, I remembered it was low, maybe 2 feet off the ground. My only chance. The front door groaned, wood splitting under pressure. I heard voices now, low, muffled, laughing like they had all the time in the world. I ran. Threw open the window. The screen popped out with a snap that sounded like a gunshot. Cold night air hit my face as I tumbled onto the wet grass. My palms tore open on gravel, but I didn't stop. I sprinted to my car, fumbling the keys so hard I almost dropped them. Behind me, the front door slammed open. Boots hit the porch hard. The engine roared to life, headlights cutting through the black as I tore down the driveway. In the rearview mirror, the truck's headlights flared on, blinding and angry. They followed for a mile, then 2, staying just far enough behind that I couldn't see faces. Then, without warning, they turned off onto a dirt road and disappeared like nothing had happened. I didn't stop until I hit the interstate, white-knuckled and shaking so hard I could barely keep the car straight. I reported the listing the next day. Airbnb sent me an apology email and a coupon for $50 off my next stay. That was it. No one asked questions. No one wanted details. Sometimes I think about that house, the quiet, the smell of mildew, the deer head watching from the wall. And I wonder how many others walked in thinking it was just a weekend rental. How many didn't walk out? They wanted peace in the mountains, a weekend away from stress, a chance for their kids to laugh under open skies. Instead, they found a note on the porch that read, "Folks around here look after their own," and a truck that followed them through empty roads like a shadow. No one came to help. No one cared after. Some places don't need bars on windows to feel like a trap. We needed this trip more than we admitted out loud. After Tanya's promotion and months of me juggling overtime, life felt like a sprint with no finish line. A weekend in the mountains sounded like a cure, a chance for the kids to run free and for us to breathe. I booked the cabin 3 weeks ahead on Airbnb. The photos promised charm: wide porch with rocking chairs, log walls glowing warm in sunlight, windows framing green hills like paintings. The host's description sold it as secluded, perfect for families who value peace and quiet. After the year we'd had, that sounded like a blessing. We left Atlanta early Friday, our SUV packed to the roof, snacks, board games, marshmallows for s'mores. Tanya curated an old-school R&B playlist, humming along while the kids squabbled in the back seat over the tablet. I drove, letting the music drown the worry that buzzed like static in the corners of my mind. The further we went, the more the world narrowed. Gas stations shrank from franchises to shacks with peeling paint and faded signs. Cold beer and ammo, one read in chipped white letters. We stopped for snacks at a general store where the bell over the door screamed too loud in the quiet. The man behind the counter didn't speak. Didn't smile. Just looked at us, me, Tanya, and our kids, with an expression so still it felt carved. His eyes lingered longer than politeness allowed, sliding from my face to my hands like he was cataloging every detail. Tanya thanked him when we paid. He didn't answer. That silence clung to us all the way back to the car. By the time we reached the cabin, the sun was melting into orange and gold, the mountains layered like sleeping giants. The driveway curved through thick trees before opening onto the clearing where the house sat. At first glance, it was beautiful: weathered logs, a porch swaying in a lazy breeze, shadows pooling like ink at the tree lean. The kids bolted out, their laughter startling against the hush of the woods. Inside, the cabin smelled of pine, old varnish, and something faintly sour, like damp wood that never dried. The living room was spacious, anchored by a stone fireplace and shelves stacked with outdated board games. A mounted deer head loomed above the mantel, glass eyes catching the last shards of sunlight. Wherever I moved, its stare seemed to follow. On the kitchen counter, a folded note waited beneath a small jar of local honey: "Welcome, Jackson family. Make yourselves at home." It should have felt warm. But something about the ink, thick, pressed hard like each letter was carved instead of written, made my chest tighten. We unpacked, walked the perimeter of the property as the kids chased each other through brittle leaves. Beyond the clearing, the woods crowded close, trunks standing like sentries. The quiet out here wasn't like city quiet. It was thick, absolute, swallowing even the crunch of our footsteps. Tanya smiled but slid her hand into mine, grip firm, like she needed reassurance she couldn't say out loud. As night crawled in, I lit the grill on the deck. Smoke curled into the sharp autumn air, carrying the tang of charcoal and something metallic from the fire grate. The forest stood black and endless beyond the yard, no stars yet, no sound but the cicada's low drone. That's when I saw it. A truck. Parked just past the curve of the dirt road where the clearing ended. Dark green, streaked with mud, too far for me to see the plate but close enough to know it didn't belong there. The engine was off. The windows were dark. I stared, heat from the grill warming my face as cold licked the back of my neck. After a beat that stretched too long, the driver's door opened. A man stepped out. Tall. Broad. White. A cap pulled low over his brow. He didn't wave. Didn't move closer. Just stood there, head tilted slightly. Like he was deciding something. "Babe, kids want ketchup." Tanya's voice snapped the moment like a branch breaking. I turned toward the door, forcing a smile I didn't feel. When I looked back, the man was gone. So was the truck. I locked the doors after dinner. Twice. Tanya didn't laugh at my paranoid habits this time. She just helped me check the windows, her jaw tight, her eyes saying the thing neither of us wanted to. By midnight, the cabin slept. Except me. I lay listening to the kind of silence that feels alive, staring at the ceiling beams until I almost believed the unease was just in my head. Then I heard it, the sound that snapped every nerve taut. Gravel. Crunching slow outside. A pause. Then another crunch. Moving closer. I didn't breathe. And in that stillness, I realized the forest wasn't what made me feel trapped. It was this house, and whoever was out there, closing the distance one careful step at a time. I didn't move. Not when the sound of gravel stopped just short of the porch. Not when a board creaked under weight, sharp in the dead quiet. Tanya stirred beside me, mumbling something soft, then stilled again. My pulse pounded so hard I felt it in my teeth. I slid out of bed slow, bare feet kissing the cold wood floor without a sound. The cabin was black except for a faint line of moonlight leaking through the curtains. I reached for my phone on the nightstand. No bars. Not even one. Of course. The living room stretched like a throat in the dark, shadows pooling in corners. I moved careful, avoiding the boards that groaned earlier when we'd walked through. At the front door, I pressed my ear to the wood. Nothing. No footsteps, no breathing, just the whisper of trees rubbing against themselves outside. I peeled the curtain back a fraction. The yard glowed silver under a swollen moon. Empty. No man. No movement. My chest loosened just enough to pull in air. Then I saw it, tire tracks carved deep in the dirt, curving tight beside the porch steps like someone had driven up close. Close enough to reach. I stayed by that window a long time, waiting for a shape to bloom from the tree line. It never did. Eventually, I backed away and locked the door again, fingers trembling against the cold metal. Sleep never came after that. I sat in a chair by the window, watching the yard bleed from black to gray as dawn crawled in. Tanya found me there when the kids woke up, eyes wide, hair frizzed from the pillow. "What are you doing?" she asked, voice low. "Just, couldn't sleep," I lied. But I didn't have to. Her face told me she felt it too, the weight pressing in from beyond the glass. After breakfast, I stepped onto the porch, phone clutched like a weapon even though it still showed no service. The air bit cold, and the smell of smoke lingered, like someone had been burning wood nearby. At the top of the steps, something caught my eye, a folded scrap of paper pinned under a small, jagged rock. My stomach turned before I even touched it. The note said, "Folks around here look after their own." No greeting. No name. Just that, letters slashed hard in black marker, the paper creased like angry hands had folded it. I didn't tell the kids. Didn't tell Tanya right away either. I slipped the note into my pocket and forced a smile that felt stapled to my face. We played cards, read books, tried to pretend. But every laugh from the kids sounded too loud, echoing in a space that didn't want it. Around noon, Tanya caught me staring out the window, eyes fixed on the curve where the road vanished into trees. "What is it?" she whispered. I showed her the note. Her lips pressed thin, her eyes darted to the kids. She didn't say the word I knew she was thinking, leave. We packed quiet, moving like burglars in our own lives. Every zip of a suitcase felt like a shout. I loaded the car fast, heart punching hard as I scanned the tree line. The wood seemed thicker now, branches knitting into a single dark shape. When I closed the trunk, I heard it. An engine. Low, crawling over gravel. The same truck rolled into view, slow as syrup, stopping just far enough to let me see the men inside. 2 of them this time. Both white. Both staring like we were bugs under glass. Tanya's voice cracked. "Kids, in the car. Now." I climbed behind the wheel, hands slick, breath shallow. The truck didn't move as I pulled out. Just sat there, idling, heat shimmering off its hood like sweat. When we hit the bend, headlights flared behind us. They followed. Not close. Not far. Just enough. 5 miles. 10. My knuckles bleached on the steering wheel. Every turn, they stayed back, shadows growing long across the road as the sun dropped behind the ridge. Then, without warning, the truck slowed. Turned down a dirt road. Disappeared into the trees. We didn't stop driving until asphalt turned to interstate and neon signs cut through the dusk. The kids fell asleep with candy wrappers in their hands, Tanya staring at nothing, her nails carving half-moons into her palms. Back home, I reported the note to Airbnb. Their response? "We take safety seriously. Thank you for your feedback." Then an email with a $50 credit code. Sometimes, when the house is quiet and the night presses too close, I see that porch. That note. And I wonder what would have happened if we'd stayed just one more night, if the next knock on the door wouldn't have been a warning, but a verdict. Thanks so much for watching. Your support truly means the world to me. Every like, every comment helps this channel grow and keeps me going. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new upload. My dream right now is to reach 100 subscribers, and with your help, I know it's possible. See you in the next one.